But right now, we're pleased to be joined by Jacqueline Costales. She's the director of New Mexico Public Education Department's Curriculum and Instruction Division. Welcome, Jacqueline. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it. Let's start with the nuts and bolts here. According to information put out by your department, these changes are meant to address, I'm going to quote here, the increasingly diverse perspectives and histories of the peoples of New Mexico, end quote. Can you explain exactly how those perspectives manifest themselves in a K through 12 education program?
Sure. So our goal for the redevelopment of the New Mexico Social Studies standards is to create standards that are culturally responsive and that focus on the knowledge, skills, and dispositions critical to ensuring all students in the state are college, career, and civic ready. The revisions provide a framework for introducing historically accurate information in our social studies classrooms, curriculum for implementing these standards. So how students will meet and achieve the learning goals articulated therein will be determined at the local level. A standard is like an umbrella, and then curriculum is inclusive of the individual lessons and plans and the materials that are chosen by the schools and within each community.
Jacqueline, I'm curious, when did the idea come about to make these changes? Why now for PED?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say at the national, sort of the national best practice across all of the states is to redevelop standards every 10 to 15 years, right in there. These standards our social studies standards in New Mexico have not undergone a significant revision for almost 20 years. So when you think about what has happened just since the turn of the century, it's really important that we update the standards, both in terms of the historical facts that have been added to that tapestry, if you will, to the history, but also to assure, again, that our students are being asked to practice as they grow from 5-year-olds in kindergarten all the way up to their graduation in those areas. And our students, just quite frankly, it's time. They deserve to have updated standards that challenge their thinking. And actually, our teachers really look to us to assure that what they're teaching is the most up-to-date information. So I think it was a combination of all of that.
Let's talk about process and who's behind the changes. My understanding is a lot of teachers themselves were part of this process statewide. Tell us about that.
That's exactly right, Gene. So actually, it's been about a 16-month process up to now. We started actually with a visioning committee of experts from across the state, higher ed, tribal education leaders, various museum-based experts, those people that really are entrenched and considered experts in the field of the social sciences. And they first helped us to develop and begin our visioning for the state update. And then once that started, we launched an application for K-12 educators across the state. So teachers, administrators, principals, any of the educators that were interested in participating who applied. They shared information in that application about their content expertise, their expertise and experience in revising curriculum or standards, and their classroom experiences. And so 64 were chosen to be part of our writing committees, and they have expertise at all levels, K to 12, and they represent all of the geographical areas of New Mexico.
The new content standards are designed to teach topics in, I'm going to quote here again, developmentally appropriate ways. Can you describe exactly what that means? Because I want to get into some of the pushback you're receiving. So what does that exactly mean when you say that to somebody, a parent or someone? How are they supposed to take that in?
Yeah, so I think developmentally appropriate means that it is aimed at the age level of the student within their, the place where they are in their growth and development. And so I think in the public schools, that translates usually to the grade level they are at. So we can take some of the major concepts and context that is written into the standards. And actually, it's sort of, that is the magic that the teacher, the educator does. So we can take topics, major strands and anchors in the social studies standards like civics, economics, geography, history, and create lessons and classroom involvement, activity, projects, assignments, so on and so forth, that is aimed at the level that the student is currently at.
You know, you mentioned before the four main pillars that we all know about from our earlier years in school: civics, economics, geography, and history. But this other leg, state wants to add ethnic, cultural, and identity studies as well. And I think for a lot of folks, that identity studies is probably the hang up. I'm curious the kind of feedback you're getting. You've opened up for public comment. You're hearing from folks who are uncomfortable. What's your sense of, is there a common thread of what you're hearing of comfort or discomfort from folks who are not so crazy about this idea so far?
Yeah, I actually think we are getting common threads for sure. I think what I am hearing as I read, right now we have over 1,100 pages of written feedback. And so we are dedicated to reading every single word and have been as it's been coming in. And so what I really see is the care and the unity we have as a state around how we educate our students. And from that perspective, I really value that information. Yes, there are some that are, because it's not, it hasn't been something, it wasn't present perhaps when, I was in kindergarten a gazillion years ago in the 70s. We were learning those very specific strands that we talked about before. However, the experiences and the historical story did address those things. If you just think about the civil rights movement, it was in there. So the strand of ethnic, cultural, and identity studies supports us in assuring, it's like a check mark in assuring that all of our students, every single student, right, is cared for in the classroom discourse, and the lesson plans that are developed by teachers, and in the materials chosen. And then in terms of the inquiry strand, that is absolutely critical in our aim to assure that our students are ready for college and career readiness. I just want to point out something. I wouldn't say, I think it's incidental is a nice way to describe it, but we are at a time where the state has had to recognize what has been found in the Yazzie Martinez case.
Right.
And what was found is that there are certain subgroups of our students that haven't had the access to being college and career ready that each subgroup should deserve. And those subgroups that were listed included our Native American students, our English language learners, our students with disabilities, our low socioeconomic students. It covers a vast sort of landscape of our student body across the state. And those two strands, incidentally, actually support and assure that every single student can recognize themselves in the classroom, can recognize the history that has occurred, both the good and the bad. Not every piece of history about our incredible country is positive, right? There are some dark stories to be told in the history of our country, but there's also some glorious stories. And we want to make sure through that inquiry strand that students have the ability to take in information, to decipher it, to digest it, to communicate with others about it, to share their opinion, to listen to the opinions of other students. Again, all in a developmentally appropriate way.
What do you say to folks out there who say this is turning history political, that this is teaching kids how to hate our country, how to take some of those dark things you mentioned before and make that the point of our history instead of the good stuff? What do you say to the parents who feel this is, and there's a quote about this, it's tilting towards progressives? Does PED have an answer to that?
Well, yeah, I don't know if I would say we have an answer to that. I think that as a statewide community, we're all in this together. And actually, there is nothing in any set of standards, social studies or otherwise, where we would see as one of the outcomes some kind of slant sort of against our country. That is not the purpose of this. The purpose is to assure that all students are recognized as they and exposed to and are the stories of all peoples of our state, our country, and of the world. There is, I don't want to say two sides to every story, because I believe historical data is factual, but there are different perspectives. I mean, if you would have asked someone from England how they felt about our revolution, their opinion would have been very different than the colonists. A set of historical facts, no doubt, but there would have been two understandings about how those events unraveled. That's just sort of a general example that we can all relate to,
Sure.
given the founding of our country. But all of history sort of needs to have that approach, and we need to make sure that students can have civil discourse in a developmentally appropriate way, so that they're practiced when they enter into their adult lives, whether they choose college or career, and that they can be informed, participating citizens that that can vote their mind and their heart, and be assured that they understand the topics of the day.
So Jacqueline, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.